What's up, Big 12 Nation? It is Wednesday night in America. That can mean only one thing. I didn't have time to record on Tuesday, but it is time for your first week one installment of your favorite Big 12 YouTube show on this channel. That is the Biggest 12 with me, your host, Clint Foster. Thank you so much for joining us. We got a fantastic show. Football's finally here, y'all. We finally get to talk about games that are imminent, that are happening in a period of days, right? 2 days for the Frogs, 3 days for the Mountaineers and others. It's going to be a blast. We can't wait to talk about it with you. But first, I got a job that I need you to do. You know what it is. I got to have you subscribe to the show. If you haven't yet, I mean, honestly, what are you doing? Why are you even what decisions are you making in your life that have brought you to this point? Like, subscribe. There it is right there at Big 12, Voice of College Football. It's not just me. It's Joey and Shane. It's lots of other great stuff. Big 12 content that you want to see and you want to engage with. So you want to be a part of it. Tell your friends and family about it. Knock on doors. Do the BYU thing. Get on a bicycle. Do whatever it is you got to do to grow this show. Okay, let's turn this into a thing. And also, please follow me on Twitter at Clint_Foster55 and follow my YouTube channel at Clint Foster Comedy. Starting to have some TCU fans videos here pretty soon, right? The Purple Couch is coming back. Also, if I may humble brag on myself, I made it onto TCU Friday beers this past weekend, something that my high school students actually made me aware of. Bad Friday to be a beer, right? And it's a bad Friday to be a beer when we have games coming up here shortly. So speaking of Twitter, I have some fantastic guests on with me today to talk about these games. You know him, you love him. It's Uninformed Frog and King of Snacks, Ross Snacklock, as well as Mountaineer Paul, the host of Locked on West Virginia. A lot of great stuff to talk about with these guys. Boys, thank you so much for being here.
What's up, Clint? Guys?
Football's up, man. We got football. That's what's up, dude. What's up with y'all?
Happy to be here, man.
Only 2 more sleeps till TCU football, baby. Let's go.
Ready to be heard again. All right,
Absolutely.
I'm ready.
Yeah, at 1 o'clock in the morning, that's going to be an awesome feeling. Just very dejected.
Yes. Don't you love these West Coast games? We thought we were done with those when we left the Mountain West, but now we got.
Oh man!
Hey, it's even better for you, Paul. Right? When you get to watch West Virginia play against Arizona State, surely one of these days.
Oh, we love it. We've been doing it for 10 years now. We love it.
All right. Okay. So before we get started with anything, I want to play a little game with you, Paul. This game is called Mountaineer or Keg of Beer. Okay.
Ooh.
And it's just a 1-question game. Would you rather be hit in the face with a keg of beer or by Wyatt Milam?
Keg of beer. No doubt.
Take that keg of beer right to the face. Like a
To the
champ.
face. Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's not waste any time. Let's get on into things. First game we got coming up that's worth watching and one that I am extremely interested in. I don't know about you boys, but we've got North Dakota State at Colorado on Thursday night, 7 p.m. Colorado's a 10-point favorite. I don't know if this is going to go the Buffs' way. This is feeling more Bison-y than Buffy to me. What are y'all's thoughts on this game?
Well, I think you guys are kind of all in the camp of that Colorado should be watching their back, if I'm not mistaken. I'm on the other foot. I think Colorado is going to cover this number pretty easily, to be honest with you. Colorado, I think upgraded, on defense like substantially. Ryan Buell, third-team All-MAC, Deion Hayes, BJ Green, who was an All-Conference player in the Pac-12 last year. I just think that they've upgraded substantially. I think they're going to still be pretty porous in the secondary, but North Dakota State's not a team that can make them pay for that. New head coach in North Dakota State since their last head coach decided to take the linebacker's job at USC. And I think Colorado's going to be pretty juiced to play this game. I think they've been hearing a lot all off season. I think they've still got great team speed on offense. I think they'll be okay.
Yeah,
so Snacklock and EA Sports both very high on the Colorado Buffaloes.
Yeah,
just in this game, not just in this game, not long term.
I mean, my heart wants to say North Dakota State. 10 does feel like a lot of points, regardless. Though I would probably still take North Dakota State here. I mean, I know Colorado, they have some play for this year. They're going to have a chip on their shoulder. They're itching to go. Shador's incredible, without a doubt. We're probably going to hear all about him leading up to that game tomorrow. But Cam Miller's no joke either. He's another All-American contender, playing on the other side of the football tomorrow night. I think this game is going to be a lot closer than a lot of Colorado fans would ever be willing to admit it's going to be.
Yeah, Cam Miller, absolutely one of the most underrated players in football, and Kolasek back as the offensive coordinator at North Dakota State. He was their guy in 14 and 15 when they won the back-to-back. For me, this is really the tale of two different programs altogether. One program does it all the right way. One program is kind of showcasing how you don't do things. But the talent is there with the Buffs, no doubt about that. They've definitely upgraded on both sides of the ball. Sears, I think, is going to be interesting to watch on the offensive line for Colorado. Hopefully those rumors weren't true about him being initiated and the whole craziness. They said he had to fight. It was crazy. They were having Friday night fights in the locker room. It's so many crazy storylines that come out of that. But there's one coach on there that I believe in more than anybody else. That's Warren Sapp. I really think he's going to have those guys ready to go on the defensive line for them. Deion Hayes was a problem when we played against Pitt, and he's an elite All-American type guy on the defensive line. It's going to be really hard for them to block them. I'll take Colorado, but they're going to get a scare coming off an 8-3 North Dakota season.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. Like, I think, you guys are kind of talking me into it a little bit, but I think I just come back to, I watched Power 5 teams, despite all of Colorado's issues last year. Do we really think that North Dakota State secondary can hang with Colorado's receivers?
Well, you asked that question, but I don't know if Colorado's defense can keep up with North Dakota State. This game, I think the score might be kind of reminiscent of Colorado DTCU to start the season off last year when it's all said and done. I think they may be boat racing each other all night long.
Yeah, my thoughts are based exclusively off of vibes, right? Which is how I tend to do a lot of things, if I'm being totally honest.
It's not good.
I don't know anything about North Dakota State's roster. I honestly couldn't even tell you where they finished last year. But, Paul said it. This is two distinctly different programs. Doesn't matter who the coach is at North Dakota State. They have a way of doing things. They're lunch pail guys, all the cliches, taking care of business. And Colorado has just been so chaotic. Throughout the entirety of Deion Sanders' tenure. I just don't know. If they come out ready to play, then, yeah, I guess they could. They should win, right? They're a 10-point favorite for a reason. But I have a really hard time believing that they cover the spread. I see this worst-case scenario for North Dakota State as a close game. But I really think North Dakota State could go in and shock them. They've beaten better teams.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess so.
They tucking you into it.
No, a little bit here and there, but not too much. I won't push back anymore. But I'll zig while y'all are zagging. How about that?
Shadur's going to have a big chip on his shoulder because of all the talk in this game, and like him or not, he's so talented, and I wouldn't want to see him on the other side if I were North Dakota State. I think that's the one guy that I think can carry them in this game if need be.
Yeah, I think they're going to want the big headline, to be honest with you, too. I think that, also, was it Arizona that played North Dakota State last year, or was it 2 years ago maybe? And they ended up handling them. North Dakota State hasn't been the giant killers that they were maybe 10 years ago.
Right.
Similar. When they had Carson Wentz and all those guys. I get back to that. It's when Colorado last year, when all else failed, it was can we put up points? And they did it on Nebraska. They did it on TCU. I just don't think an FCS team can handle their offense, even if the defense isn't quite where it needs to be yet.
I'm not sure who they beat last year. I'm trying to figure that out. But I'm not seeing any Power 5.
I don't remember any big games Colorado played in last year.
No,
by design, I kept drinking through them. So,
I do think it's a wildly compelling game, though. I think that says a lot about the quality of program North Dakota State has out there. Folks all over the country in the college football world are talking about this game, and obviously a lot of that is because it's week one. But I do think it's kind of fun, and it speaks volumes about their program that it's getting so many headlines.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it looks like they didn't play anybody in FBS last year, shockingly. Eastern Washington, Missouri State, South Dakota State, of course. That's kind of crazy. They didn't play anybody last year.
That Arizona game must have been 2 years ago. Then.
Yeah, must have been 2 years ago.
And that was a 5-7 Arizona team that handled North Dakota State like pretty soundly. So I like I said, I think Colorado's got it handled, and I think we'll hear if Colorado covers it comfortably, we'll hear all about it.
Well, yeah, they've upset an FBS opponent, I think 6 times in like the last since 2010. So it's not a rarity for them to go out and get it done. Why not tomorrow night against Coach Prime? If there couldn't be a better team for them to do it against.
Yes, couldn't happen to a nicer bunch of folks.
Really?
Well,
couldn't.
you know, the fake news media, they spend enough time talking about Colorado. I think we can move on from the Buffs and move on to the real game of the week, people. That Friday night game.
There it is.
The Friday night lights out there in Palo Alto. TCU versus Stanford. The Frogs, 9.5-point favorites against the dancing Christmas trees. I'm fairly confident about this game. Some of my students have assured me that I should not be, but I kind of think that the majority of the ACC is kind of hot garbage, and I'm not feeling too worried. I'm excited to watch the beginning of the Hoover Heisman era. Okay, that's what I'm ready for. What are y'all's thoughts on this game?
Dude, I completely agree. With regard to Stanford, what's this? Year 2 of their head coach out there,
Yeah.
And they didn't really make any massive changes this year. They brought in Oklahoma State's 4th option, I think he was. I mean, there's not much there when it comes to Stanford. Now that being said, we talked about it on our show the other day. This Stanford game is going to be kind of a bellwether moment for TCU, where I'm going to confidently stand by my 11-win prediction. Or it's a 4-5 win season, and we'll know by this time next week which one of those it's going to be. But no, purple tinted glasses aside, incredibly confident. I know we've spoken at length about how excited we are for the Avalos defense, seeing a group of guys that are put in roles that kind of match their physicality, getting to play downfield, get after a quarterback. Not running into situations like last year where we're giving guys 20, 30, 40 seconds to get rid of a football. Yeah, I'm really jazzed, man, and I think we cover that 9.5.
Yeah, I mean, I'll go with my heart and say we cover 9.5 too. But for I've mentioned it in our pod a couple times, but I grew up a Cal Bears fan, which is kind of a unique level of suffering. And so Stanford is like the original hated enemy for me. I hate them with the fury of 1,000 suns. But
wow, that's a lot.
I will say that having watched many Cal games at Stanford Stadium, and this is maybe different because they're not on the Pac-12, whatever. Maybe the ACC hired their refs. I have no idea. There was a really weird amount of home cooking that goes on at Stanford games. Always has. I swear to God, half those Andrew Luck teams were carried by the refs. You ask my dad, he'll say the same thing. And he's by no means biased as an alum of California. I think you don't want to see TCU playing this game kind of late into the fourth quarter. I think you want to have TCU kind of comfortably ahead by a little shortly after halftime. Otherwise, I'd be kind of worried. I think Stanford's depth this year is just not there. They've got some good returning production numbers, but a lot of that is do these guys have especially on their defense, do you guys have a lot of tackles because they're the guys? Are they good, or they have a lot of tackles because they were the guys that were there? They didn't lose anybody, many great guys in the portal. In this era of the portal, did you lose a bunch of guys? Did you not lose anybody because you were able to keep them, or did you not lose anybody because nobody wanted them?
There's a lot of respect for that with Stanford, man, because they were super, super young last season, and now they're still pretty young, but it's a lot of returning production. So it's just a bunch of guys who are sitting at Stanford, and now it's still just the same bunch of guys that are sitting in Stanford. So, I mean, you can tout returning production all you want, but returning production is only good if returning production is good.
Yeah, I mean, they've got Elick Aromeyer is kind of their main guy. He was honorable mention All Pac-12 last year. Colin Wright on the defense, honorable mention All Pac-12 at cornerback. Then Tristan Sinclair, I think, is kind of the leader of the defensive middle linebacker. But like outside of Aromeyer, wide receiver, and most of their skill positions, not a lot of proven production. Not super scared. I think, and then on the defense, like I said, I think if I don't know, they're a little light on the defensive line for me. I mean, in my opinion, compared to what TCU's bringing in on offense, and I'm not a huge believer in TCU's offensive line this year, but I think we've got the horses to kind of push them around a little bit. So I think we should be fairly confident going into this game.
Yeah, Dish Fish there commented about that. So TCU goes as the TCU line goes, and like you mentioned, I don't think this is going to be the game that's really going to show us if the TCU line is coming together as a cohesive unit to the level we need them to this season or not. I think there's a good chance they're just going to be able to out-athletic Stanford. I think it'll be a little on down the schedule here before we're able to say, hey, these guys have came together and they're cohesive. I don't think that's going to be an issue this particular Saturday, but I agree with him. That's going to be the name of the game here on down the stretch, without a doubt.
Well, and we got a couple of games to see how that shakes out. So I got to visit practice not too long ago. 4 of our 5 starters on offensive line were transfers. They were not here last year.
Yeah.
Right? So it is a whole new offensive line. And, I feel confident about the talent level of a lot of those guys. But are they going to be able to gel together, play as a unit? Are they going to be able to play physical? That's the big question. Because I am a big Josh Hoover believer, truly. I think he's got the intangibles that we really need. And I think he's got a pretty good arm. But if you can't keep his jersey clean, then he's not going to be able to do anything, right?
Go ahead, sorry.
Well, we just saw a team last Saturday that portaled in a good chunk of their offensive line in Florida State, and we saw that they had problems blocking up Georgia Tech. We was like a bottom, I think 25 defense last year, something abysmal. And Stanford wasn't good either last year, but I would be a little worried. I would be lying to say if I wasn't worried that we would, probably struggle a little bit in the first half to try to get some of those kinks worked out as guys kind of break in their bond together, I guess.
Yeah, 100%. And I agree with you, Clint, about Hoover. I'm so bought in, man. I'm so bought into Josh Hoover, and not just because of his ability at quarterback, but because of how freaking dangerous this wide receiver room is going to be this season. It is so freaking stacked. And, I think the most important thing about that is there's so many weapons that are going to be available. I think we're actually going to see a Josh to a Savion connection really come to fruition here, because there's other bodies on the field. They're going to give Savion the opportunity to make a play that we haven't seen for him in the past. So I think we're going to score a lot of points.
I agree with you. Hey, Paul, give us the outsider's opinion. Be honest with us.
I can say this. We do know about good offensive line play at West Virginia. And there was been a time when they first got around there that there wasn't good offensive play. It took, 4 years to build it, to where it was elite. I think we can confidently say we had the best offensive line in the Big 12 last year. Maybe Oklahoma State can say that. And then we've definitely got a top 2 or 3 unit this year as well. It takes 5 guys, right? It's not one of those things where you can just add a guy here or there. That's pretty good. You really need 5 guys moving as one. And when it clicks, and it's pretty obvious that it's clicking. And there's really just no substitute. That's one of the only. There are some patchwork things you can do, but it's really one of the only position groups that you have to have all 5 guys on the same page. So it's going to be really important for you guys. As far as Stanford goes, Elick Ayamanar, however he says his last name, I'll never forget the performance he put on against Colorado last year. 13 catches for 200 and something yards. That kid's a gamer. And I remember the quarterback Daniels that they had last year. I know they were trying to decide between he and a kid, a 4-star recruit named Brown. I don't know if they have made a decision on that yet, but I didn't feel like the Daniels kid was going to be, I don't know who's going to be better between those, obviously, from a 30,000-foot perspective. But if they've got a quarterback, then he can be a matchup problem for you guys. But outside of that, TCU should have too much for him. I mean, I think Troy Taylor's a good coach, and he's in the second year of rebuilding that program. Year two is not really, even in the portal era, that year typically when you're going to take off, especially in a brand new league. There's always an adjustment period, and even you're playing an out of conference game at that. So I think you guys are catching them at a pretty good time. 6 games from now, 8 games from now, maybe they're a better team than we all thought. But I think most places have Stanford at right 4.5 wins or something like that. So I think TCU is much better than that. At least 7 to 8 win ball, team at TCU. So I don't think I think they'll cover, and I think the defense is going to show out.
I mean, yeah, the offensive line is the only part that really worries me. I think
it could be a problem. It could be a problem. That could derail the whole game for you guys. So.
Yeah, I mean, in this reworked defense, I think I feel pretty good. But we actually had former Frog Brandon Coleman on our podcast the other day, and he was talking about the cohesion between those groups of the last couple of years that he was a part of it, that played at all conference level at TCU, and he was talking about how much time that took for those guys to come together. And I don't know, the upside is that TCU's offensive line has basically been the same since spring ball. They thought they were going to have a couple. They have one guy that's going to come in and probably contribute. That's been post spring ball, but outside of that, it's going to be 4 of the 5 guys, be the same guys. But at the same time, is that enough time in this offense, which kind of goes at a breakneck pace and doesn't always give the guys time to always, ID all their assignments and everything else like that. They just got to go and have a good feel for each other. We'll see. But I think we feel okay about that.
Yeah, absolutely. At least for this game, for this week, absolutely.
We saw last year what a great quarterback can do or can't do behind a terrible offensive line and Shedeur Sanders, right? He's a good example of that. I think Josh Huber is going to be an elite quarterback. I'm sold on him too. Love his arm talent. But if what's his mobility like? I really don't remember 100% what his mobility is like. It doesn't seem like it stands out from what I can.
It's fair. I mean, he's not immobile, but he's not Max Duggan either.
Right.
Yeah.
So you definitely going to need that to be tightened up for that to happen for him. So it'll be interesting to see.
We're talking about mobile quarterbacks. Haas Haney is the future in that department.
Absolutely.
That's a Texas name if I've ever heard one.
Yeah, future TCU royalty, Haas Haney.
Yes. I'll tell you, I mean, you mentioned something to this effect earlier. I think that TCU may have the highest ceiling and lowest floor of any team in the Big 12. My expectation is around 7-8 wins. If we have less than 7, I'm going to be disappointed. But there's a world where if this offensive line comes together, we can rattle off 11 and compete for the Big 12 championship. But it's all coming down to this offensive line, like we're saying. I'm very
excited. Our schedule. West Virginia's schedule's murderer's row this year.
Yes, yeah. I'm very excited about the defense. Avalos is going to bring pressure, and it's a beautiful thing. It's something that we've missed the last 2 years, even in the great 2022 season. But yeah, our ceiling depends entirely on how well the offensive line plays.
And you know what? There's schools all around the country that say that exact same thing. It's offensive line. It's the biggest bugaboo in college football, it seems like. But I like you said, man, when we're kids, like you were saying, this group has been together for a while now. It's just a matter of seeing if it's cohesive on game day. And I just don't think Stanford's going to be the game to really show us that yet.
And if all else fails, we have probably a greater than 50% chance of outdrawing Stanford in their own stadium. So,
Yes.
And
fun fact, we'll knock on wood about this. TCU has never lost to Stanford. 3-0 all time against Stanford. Won in 2007, 2008, that hurricane monsoon game in 2008. And then, of course, the Alamo Bowl win when Kenny Hill scored a rushing, passing, and receiving touchdown in 2017.
You guys with the fighting Jim Harbaughs?
Yeah, the fighting Jim Harbaughs, yes. Jim Harbaugh doesn't have the best record against us. We'll say that.
That's right. Not many people could say that about him,
That's true. Okay, yeah. I'm gonna bookend our games here. We'll save West Virginia for last, if that sounds good to you, Paul. Look at a couple of other games from around the league. Namely South Dakota State at Oklahoma State. This is one that have been on several people's upset radar. I don't see it because, we were talking about, Colorado's just too good. I think Oklahoma State is way too good. Mike Gundy can always pull a Mike Gundy. Things can happen. But I think this Oklahoma State squad is very talented. I don't see any world in which they lose this game. What do y'all think?
Dude, I don't think they do it again. I don't think Oklahoma State drops yet another stinker to an FCS team. Not this year. Not week one. Go out there, get behind that running game. They're going to get it done.
Man, see, I did this the other way around. North Dakota State, y'all.
Yeah.
I don't think Oklahoma State's going to lose, but I think South Dakota State is very capable of covering almost a 10-point spread against them. I mean, Oklahoma State is like such a an up and down team. They can be. I mean, they got their doors blown off at home by South Alabama last year. That was kind of before Oklahoma State really had a great identity. But
they got annihilated by UCF. Annihilated.
Yeah, I know, destroyed. Yeah, and then ended up still playing for the conference title, and played a much closer game with BYU than they should have. So I'm kind of at the point where it's like South Dakota State is, I think, a team that can, hang. I think they're as good as a lot of upper level G5 teams, in my opinion. And Oklahoma State struggled with that last year. If Ollie Gordon, for some reason, isn't 100%, because I know he's been maybe dinged up a little bit in camp, from time to time. Things happen. He's a running back.
Dinged up.
What are you talking about?
29 straight games is wild, man.
But seriously, can Oklahoma State survive scenarios where they need Alan Bowman to win them games?
Yeah, that's a question, right? Is this a situation where the Cowboys go as Ollie goes, and if things aren't going Ollie's way, maybe South Dakota squeaks it out? I mean, South Dakota State is a national champion. That's like last year. You can't be writing off the.
I watched them give TCU a sheer heart attack in our stadium, in 2016.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And we weren't a great team that year, but still very, very capable pro.
Mm-hmm.
They won 29 games in a row. South Dakota State has. That's it's just unheard of. They've got their version of the Heisman winner at quarterback, Gronowski. That kid is phenomenal. He's such a good player. Here's where I think the rubber meets the road. We're on the offensive line topic again today. And Oklahoma State has it'll never happen again in history, of college football history. I don't think this will ever happen again. 5 sixth-year seniors starting on an offensive line. It will never happen again. That COVID year. You'll never see. It's the wildest thing, and that's to me where they're going to They're just going to road grade. I feel like they're going to road grade South Dakota State up front. South Dakota State can hang in every other aspect of this game, except in the trenches and Ollie Gordon. There's no way. I don't see a world. There was no Ollie Gordon against South Alabama last year. They implemented that about 4 games in. We happened to catch that burst. He went off against us. 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter against us after we were worn down, 7-point ball game. But anyway, I think that's where they win it, and if it does seem like if they get that, they're going to make adjustments. If South Dakota State looks like they can score it, they'll just ball control it, I think. And while South Dakota State may cover, I don't think that they lose. They've got too much experience. Alan Bowman, another 6-year guy.
He's a 7th-year guy.
He might be 7th year. This is a semi-pro team, like Presley is another kid that's been around for years there, and he's probably one of the better slot guys in the league. Too many matchup problems. I just don't see South Dakota State. This is the highest level of competition they will have seen during this 29-win streak. So, I don't see, because Oklahoma State's a legit college football playoff contender. So it's not like this is your middle of the road, like in Iowa State, they've lost the teams in the early season, FCS teams before, or Kansas did, North Dakota State a couple times. This is a really good football team. The one that I think is going to finish definitely top 2 in the league.
Here's for what it's worth too. Again, for what it's worth, it's also in Stillwater, Oklahoma, at 1 o'clock in the afternoon in August. It's going to be about 200,000 degrees at field level at Boone Pickens.
It's going to be loud.
It's going to be loud. It's going to be crazy, and it's going to be hot.
Yeah, not the best environment for South Dakota State to play in.
It'll probably be close for a half or three quarters, you know.
Yeah, I think they keep it close for a half, but Oklahoma State, they're bigger, stronger, more physical in the trenches. I think they put them away by the time it gets to the middle of the third quarter. It's out of reach by the fourth.
The league needs it, you know. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
No,
the Big 12 needs this win to happen.
Yeah.
For the betterment of our league, we just have to be rooting for Oklahoma State, you know, or at least I feel that way.
I'd agree with you.
We're trying to gain respect, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll tell you what. I am very happy TCU has Oklahoma State in Fort Worth, but that is still a game I am really not looking forward to. Not looking forward to.
No,
like you said, Ollie Gordon behind 5 6-year seniors on the offensive line. That is a day of work, right?
It's a day of work. And they're all, you know, and Oklahoma State never has bad offensive linemen. You know, they're always really good.
Yeah. But yeah, I still see Oklahoma State winning. It's just there's too much against South Dakota State, I think, even as good as they have been at their level. All right, moving right along. Another game that is far from certain. UNLV at Houston. The Cougs are 2.5-point favorites on Saturday night. And I don't think Houston's going to win this game. I'd love to see them do it. But UNLV they're kind of a good team now, right? I mean, they had a great season, maybe their best season in school history last year. And Houston, I think Willie Fritz was an excellent hire. I think that the future is bright in Houston. But the immediate week 1 future, I'm not so certain about. What do you boys think?
Has UNLV named a starter at quarterback yet? Is it Mahaj Malik Williams or is it Matthew Sluka? Do we know? For FCS transfers. Do we know? Or no? I haven't seen that.
Looking that up now. Well, as of 2 days ago, the Las Vegas Review-Journal said UNLV starting quarterback still a mystery leading up to season opener.
They would, yeah. I would be shocked if they would have called it, you know.
Yeah, that's looking. I think they have. This is accurate. They have all 3 guys listed as an or.
Coach P somewhere like, yeah, baby.
Yeah, that's the GP special right there.
Yeah, I mean, I find myself at odds with you guys again, man. I think Houston will handle it, to be honest with you. I think if you sell Jane Mayava at UNLV as a returning quarterback in that system, I'd have a lot more confidence. I love UNLV's offense. The Brennan Marion go-go offense. When TCU was looking for offensive coordinators a few years ago, I thought they would have been a really great hire for them. Didn't end up going that way, but UNLV, you know, I mean, they were the favorite in the Mountain West, and they kind of laid an egg against Boise, Mountain West championship game last year at home. You know, I think Houston's going to be energized, and I think Willie Fritz gets those guys ready to go. He's a good defensive coach, and I think the offense is kind of designed to do just enough, which I think is a better fit for what Donovan Smith's abilities are at Houston. And also Houston's also kind of a brand new team. They've got so many transfers going into Houston. I think it's going to be tough for UNLV to prep film on them. We saw that last year with TCU in Colorado. You know, I think Houston will manage, but I think it's going to certainly be a competitive game.
Yeah, I don't think Houston wins, man. I would love to see it as well. You know, that's a 9-4 team that returns pretty much everybody. You know, and four offensive line starters are back. Quarterback question does worry you a bit, I think. But man, they would have what would be a top 3 wide receiver in the Big 12, even a Ricky White. Man, that dude had 1,400 yards last year. That's a matchup problem. Their second guy had over 600 yards. You know, not having a quarterback coming into a Power 5 game is a problem. I get that. And we need this game, too, for the league. But Barry Odom's a good coach, man. You know, and wild how he's resurfaced. But, man, I want Houston to win now that, especially since Dana's no longer there. I can say that, right? You guys don't hate me for saying that. But, you know, I just have to trust those 4 offensive linemen returning along with the skill talent. And Barry Odom, you know, but I mean, listen, I'll take Brits, but head up, but it's year 1, so
Yeah, I mean, I think I'd agree with you. You got to go with the more established program here in UNLV. Unfortunately, we'd love for Houston to get it done, but I don't think so.
We'll see. I mean, Dishfish says it's a toss-up. I mean, I think that's what the line indicates. Hopefully Houston wins, but I don't necessarily see it happening. Another one that I'm not all that confident in as far as the Big 12 is concerned, Wyoming at Arizona State. Arizona State no longer under the bowl ban anymore. I do really love their coach, that young guy they've got over there, but Wyoming is another team that's been on the rise. Obviously, they beat Texas Tech last year. In a game that has haunted the Red Raiders ever since. Do y'all think Arizona State can pull it off against Wyoming at home?
I mean, I think last year, I think Tech was looking ahead a week to Oregon, more so than Wyoming. Like out talented them, and they were also at Wyoming, which is a tough place to play up there in altitude in Laramie. I think Wyoming turned over quite a bit of that roster. Plus, they have a new head coach. He was on staff last year as their DC. I think it's Jay Sawville or something like that. But Arizona State also, I mean, they were, I think what I would call them like bad but plucky last year. I mean, they played with Washington. They got after it in the games last year against the Pac-12 was probably the deepest conference in the country last year. So, I mean, I don't think Arizona State's going to be a good team, but they get them at home. I think Wyoming's turning over enough. I think Arizona State will win. Cover, I don't know. I'd like to hope they could cover at home against a G5 team, but I think they'll win.
Yeah. For me, Arizona State's an interesting team, but I really don't have a good read on this one. I really don't. I'll pick the Sun Devils to win because I think, Laramie's it's luckily they're not there, right? Or they're in Laramie, right?
No, they're in.
It's in Tempe. It's in Tempe.
Okay, they're in Tempe. Okay, good. Yeah, so that gives the Arizona State the edge. I don't know a lot about their roster. I I need to prep it. It's one of the teams I haven't gotten to in the off season, but I know they had a quarterback battle, and a guy won, and it wasn't the Nebraska transfer. I was shocked to see that, but I think it's Levitt, the Michigan State guys, that won their job. But other than that, I don't know a lot about the roster, but just on paper, you would think they have more talent. So I'm going to go with Arizona State as well.
Yeah, I'll take Arizona State. A lot of mismatches on the field for them. Now, I will say though, if this was in Wyoming, I might be thinking about it a little more. But playing in Arizona, 7 points. I'm going to take Arizona State.
Keep in mind, Arizona State does not get an FCS game, I don't think, on their schedule this year. Correct me if I'm wrong. So this is kind of their opportunity to kind of get a home win, and I think we were talking about this on the pod the other week. Arizona State got kind of hit with the ugly stick on the schedule and the things in the Big 12 slate. Like this is their opportunity, and I think Kenny Dillingham's an alum. He wants to gas at this team. He's trying to build that program. I think this is almost even a must-win game for Arizona State, to be honest with you, for their program.
That's a really great point. That's a really great point. As looking at this as like a game that you got to win as far as building what you're trying to make happen down there. Yeah, because otherwise, I mean, you got a winnable game at Texas State. Mississippi State at home isn't a give me at all. But yeah, the Big 12 schedule outside of Cincinnati, the Big 12 schedule is ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. And I'm looking at it again. I remember that.
And Texas State's no give me.
No, not at all.
Not this year.
Yeah. That's true. It's too bad it's a 9 p.m. game. If it was 107 at kickoff, that's completely changed the complexion of this game. One more thing before we get to West Virginia. We are going to get to West Virginia. This occurred to me that I didn't bring this up, and I haven't brought it up on a show previously. But, the rumors around UConn getting added to the conference really heating up, as an Olympic sport right away, and then potentially a football ad in the 2030s, assuming they're able to meet certain criteria.
Yeah.
I don't think there is at all consensus within the league on adding them yet. But what are y'all's thoughts on adding UConn? Do you think it's a good ad to go after UConns and Gonzagas and try and lock up being the best basketball conference in the nation? Or do you think that it drags down the football program, the football product too much?
I don't think it's a binary question. Like, I mean, y'all may disagree, but it's not a binary option here. There's nothing wrong with adding these schools to kind of solidify yourself as a basketball powerhouse conference, while also keeping the door open and having those conversations to expand to other big schools to grow your football presence. So, in my mind, absolutely, you go after them, you go ahead and add them. And that's not me saying because I want to pump the brakes on anything else. That's me saying because why not both? I don't see why that can't happen. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm not tend to know more than Brett Yormark, but he who knows all, Brett Yormark. But I think, I mean, there are very few collegiate athletic like brands that are available to the Big 12 right now, and UConn is one of them. Mm-hmm. Whether he can squeeze more juice out of the basketball lemon than anybody else ever has remains to be seen. I think that's probably a lot of the idea behind this. And I don't know necessarily that the Big 12 needs to get a whole lot better in basketball. They're already the best basketball conference, but UConn is the back-to-back defending champ, and their head coach just turned down the Lakers. So they have got some serious cachet. It's the flagship of a state that has a very large tax basin, which is a relative thing for investment in facilities and building up a program like that. But UConn has also been in a major conference before and didn't do that. They were kind of middling to bad in the Big East, and the Big East was kind of at that point in time not any better than Mountain West. The TCU was in with Utah and BYU and all those other teams, and they didn't really do it the first time around. Whether they will do it the next time around, I think remains to be seen. I think if you're going to do it, you have to make that clause about joining in 2031 as dependent on them hitting thresholds as you can. But also, I'm not super bullish on football in anywhere north of basically Pennsylvania at any point at this point in history. So, I think it's kind of dying up there, especially in college. So, kind of no strong opinion. If you're doing it to get more money, then sure. But I wouldn't want to be saddled with their football program forever, to be honest.
That's a good point. If it's about the more money, more investment, I think the way the college, I'll say football, the way the college sports climate is right now, if these decisions are actually being talked about, guys like Yormark think it's a good idea. I think it would be kind of dumb to just as a fan to say, well, no, I don't agree with this type of expansion.
I will say I think Gonzaga is a terrible.
Well, there you go. If the powers that be, I've liked every move that leadership has made to this point for this conference. They haven't steered us in a wrong direction, in my opinion. And if they think this type of move makes sense, I'm sure they would have those certain caveats in place in order to get added for other sports. Then I would fully trust our leadership to do that. I think in the modern era of college football, where it seems like we tend to start eating each other on a much more regular basis. I think the smartest thing to do is probably to keep growing. And if that's what Yormark and company want to do, then I would tend to want to agree with him.
So my outlook on this is probably a lot different than yours because I was I was around for the Big East with UConn and that whole thing. And the Big East died because it chose to be a basketball company.
Hey, TCU was in the Big East too. Okay, we were in the Big East for a month. Okay,
Take it easy there. That was wild, man. That whole thing, the way that played out. And West Virginia was in the SEC until Missouri stole their spot. That's a true story. Well, we actually had the invitation, and then they decided on Missouri last minute. But UConn was a top 25 team in the middle 2000s. We played them at least 3 or 4 years in a row where they were a top 25 team. They even went to a Fiesta Bowl. So
I remember. Yeah.
They have in the past under Randy Edsel, which is that's long gone now, shown the ability to do it, but it's a totally different world now, and they're so far behind because of what they've been earning. Then they were on a Big East level, which we were earning $7 million a year to be in the Big East. That's what it was. Not good. But, it was I think it was a tougher league than people realized. We won 3 BCS bowls out of there. But I struggle with it because of how the Big East ended, and that ended because you gave a bunch of basketball brands some votes, and that then when it came time to have football decisions, football wasn't being put first because these basketball people had all the more votes. And when you look at the conference now, it's almost you're getting up there to like 5 or 6 teams that I would consider to be basketball brands and not football. If you go look down up and down the Big 12, you'd be kind of surprised to see how many of these teams are really more basketball oriented. Like, it's tough on some, like Iowa State. I don't really know how to label them. I think Baylor's a basketball school. Obviously Kansas is. There are some that are both, but like West Virginia, TCU, we're heavily in football. Although we care about basketball, we're most definitely football, schools, and care about that first and foremost. That's my biggest worry. But without knowing the ins and outs of what kind of vote they would have, basketball only, it probably wouldn't be a full vote, hopefully. But those are the kind of things I worry about. But not a bad ad basketball wise. I do agree with locking that up and being the best overall basketball conference as well, because that's probably our only out anyway as far as adding value. Probably not going to do it through football unless something crazy happens.
Yeah, I mean, I come back to like, what is investment in football at UConn? Like they play in a stadium that was built for the Patriots that they never moved to. That's 40 minutes from their campus, like Miami does, but they're not Miami. Does their fan base and do their boosters understand what investment in football means? How do you recruit that play? Because to me, I see them as like the worst version of Boston College or Syracuse in football, not in basketball, but in football. And like, so what is your ceiling on that? Like, can you, like I said, large tax base in state, but one of at a flagship university, but at the same time, heavy state subsidies get poured into the University of Connecticut every year because they're so in the red in terms of all of their spending. And all those things matter when you start talking about realignment, what people can afford to do. And do they have the capacity to build even like a 30 to 35,000 seat football stadium on campus? Because that whatever they're planning right now is not going to fly. Can they build an indoor practice facility? Can they do all these things that you need to do to be and do they have a recruiting budget? Where are they recruiting from to get on that level? Are they recruiting in Florida when they go down to play UCF? Are they recruiting in Ohio when they play Cincinnati? Or in the Ohio River Base when they play West Virginia? What does that look like? I have no idea what that looks like. I don't think it's a pressing need, so I wouldn't be in favor of it right now. And like I said, Gonzaga I think is a terrible idea.
Yeah, I definitely don't want to go further west. As a West Virginia fan anyway. We're already stretched. And we operate in the red too because of the travel.
Yeah, I mean, have you guys? I don't know if you guys know anything about Gonzaga. Gonzaga is a tiny school. Smaller than TCU, small. Spokane, Washington is a remote place, very difficult to get to. And when you talk about realignment, you got to be at least kind of in the conversation of what the other schools in your conference kind of look like, and they don't even really look like TCU. And TCU is the smallest school in this conference, I think that's a bad idea, and I think there's a very limited ceiling with Gonzaga because they've only ever been good under one coach too. At least UConn has a track record with 7 coaches in basketball.
All right, hey, yes, good takes, guys. All right, so let's wrap this sucker up. Let's talk about. Let's be honest. It's the game of the week in the Big 12. I cannot believe it is an 11 a.m. game, but let's talk about number 8 Penn State going down to Morgantown and playing West Virginia in this rivalry matchup. Man, I'm excited to watch this game. I'm interested to hear what you think, Paul. I am very cautiously optimistic about West Virginia's chances to land an upset here just because this game is at home. Listen, Drew Allers is good, sure, but would he be a top 5 quarterback in this Big 12? I'm not so certain, right? What do you guys think about this game? I really think West Virginia has an opportunity here. I'm a big Garrett Green believer, and I love a lot of what this West Virginia team has.
You guys want to go first, or you want me to go?
No, that's all you, buddy.
I'd say go ahead. And I'm ready to trust the climb, though.
I'm gonna rip off your takes.
This is a climb trusting show, always and forever.
You're right.
Wild, man. I've been a part of some big builds. 2011 LSU, 2012, 13 Alabama was a big one. The pit, when we reunited the backyard brawl, that was big on both sides. I've never been a part of a build this big. Pat McAfee has been adding fuel to the fire, man. He's going to be there on Friday. Their whole crew is going to be there in a college game day setting. They had to make signs saying no camping. Pat McAfee's like, I can't even believe that they want to see me. You know how he is, but it's been awesome. They're going to have a jet flyover. There's rally towels being given out. Like West Virginia has gone all out for this. The Penn State fans are saying with that it's your Super Bowl. Like, no, you're just not used to being a part of a fan base in a university that really likes to have good games.
Sorry you play Rutgers every year.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, come on. Sorry, Pitt is your other rival. They don't even show up for us half the time. But getting down to the nitty gritty, caution areas for Penn State. So they lost 3 guys to the NFL off that offensive line. And they have a lot of proven guys that have started games, but they're patching back together 3 guys. Wormley at center returns. They haven't made a decision on right tackle yet. And so that, to me, is a key area in this game. What does that look like? Singleton and Allen are one of the best back duos in the country, but they both had an off year last year. In their freshman year, they had something like 2,000 yards. It was a lot. Drew Aller, his touchdown to interception ratio was incredible last year, but he also had a 59% completion percentage. So it wasn't world beating at all. Keandre Lambert-Smith transfers to Auburn out of the wide receiver room. He was by far the number one guy. Trey Wallace, who has been injured often for them, is going to play supposed to be their number 1 guy. They brought in a guy from Ohio State, Julian Fleming, who has 70 career catches in 4 years. That's supposed to be their number 2 guy. Tyler Warren at tight end had 44 catches and 7 touchdowns for them last year. He was a weapon. But, it's not like he's the kid from Georgia. They're elite on defense. You could even make a case that they have the best defense in the country. They are replacing pieces in the secondary. They probably have the best safety in the Big Ten in Winston. Kobe King at linebacker, you could also make a case for him. Obviously, Abdul Carter is probably the best pass rushing prospect in the draft, one of. And then they've gotten bigger at defensive tackle. They went from about 270 to 315 at D tackle and have really built that thing around the way they want to run defense. Tom Allen from Indiana comes in. They bring in Kodalnicki from Kansas, and they also got a new special teams guy. So they got 3 new coordinators in game 1 for this game. Their talent on offensive line is a question for me. The wide receiver skill position talent is a question for me. Those are my biggest areas of concern for Penn State. On the West Virginia side of things, Garrett Green, obviously we love Garrett Green. His 53% completion percentage was a problem too last year. But when you look deeper at the numbers for Garrett, 25% of his throws were 15 yards or longer down the field. That was most in the country. He had 31 big-time throws that led college football. He led college football in big-time throw rate, which basically means the farther down the field you throw it and the more difficult you throw it and complete it. That's what that is. He throws it deep better than anybody in the Big 12. We led the Power 4 in rushing with Donaldson and with Jaheim White. We lose Zach Frazier and Doug on the offensive line, but we have 2 guys that have started at other positions that are plugging those holes. Obviously, Wyatt Milam is the best tackle in the league. We're excited about that. We feel like we can replicate that. We had 3 different guys rush for 700 yards or more, and we feel like that's going to be a bonus for us on defense. We're really feel good about it. We brought in two power guys on the transfer portal as far as in the back end. Jaheim Joseph comes in from Northwestern. Garnett Hollis from Northwestern, off an 8-5 team. They both started there. They've really helped solidify things on the back end for us. Aubrey Burks is back. Anthony Wilson is back. On the other side, Aiden Garnes, a Duquesne guy who was an all-conference guy, comes in. He's won a position. And then at linebacker, we feel great about that too. We brought in Reed Carrico from Ohio State. Trey Lathan had an incredible 4-game stretch as a redshirt freshman. He was on an all Big 12 track until he got injured. And then last but not least, Josiah Trotter, the son of Jeremiah Trotter, is going to start on one of the other linebacker spots. And trust me, he breathes and sleeps linebacker. He knows it, and so he was going to start as a true freshman last year, but he got hurt too. So, and then our entire defensive line is back, everybody. So we feel good about it. We've got 84% of our production is back on offense and 70% overall the team. So we're really, really old and we're really, really experienced. If Garrett Green has fixed that intermediate stuff, we feel good about it. We really do. But we understand it's going to be a tough battle. Penn State is the more talented team, top to bottom. They've got 4- and 5-star guys. We've got 3-star guys that we have developed into 4- and 5-star guys. So I think it's going to be one of those things where I think it's going to be a tight game into the third quarter, just like last year. It was 14-7 in the third quarter. They pulled away last year. We're going to have something. Something's got to get a little better for us, and they've got to be a little bit worse. And I think that's the case. I'm picking West Virginia. I really do think we're going to win the game.
There it is.
I do. I know that was long-winded. I'm sorry.
No, that's all good, man. What's the over/under on this game? Do we know?
56, I think, the last time I checked.
Under. I mean, this game screams to me like a ball possession game all the way. I mean, I think if West Virginia can make their quarterback try to win this game on his arm, they've got a real chance. I mean, when they got those, his name's escaping me right now, Aller. When Penn State got into positions where he had to win them games last year, it didn't go well. That Michigan game where Michigan just lined up and ran the ball every play for an entire half, like they were just not scared of the ball. And I love the two safeties from Northwestern. I thought TCU should have made a hard run at those guys in the portal. TCU loaded up nicely in safety, but I really like those guys. Northwestern has typically had a really good defense, and they're accustomed to that Big Ten style of play. I like that a lot. I think this game comes down to special. Like this is like a classic ball possession, special teams mishaps written all over it kind of game.
Yeah.
And if West Virginia can avoid mistakes, I think they're going to give themselves a chance. And I think they'll definitely cover 8. I don't know if I could pick him to win outright. Because like I said, number 11 on defense for Penn State, he's a real guy. Real guy.
But he's going against Milam. That's the big thing for us. We got a first-round pick at left tackle. If they move him to the other side now, I don't know.
I agree with the state of Penn State's skill position players. They kind of downplayed the losing Lambert Smith a lot, saying he disappeared a lot last year. I think that was Cope. Julian Fleming is the one that people seem like they're talking up a lot. But, I mean, the guy was, Ohio State is the deepest wide receiver room in the country, but he was like 6th or 7th in that room, I feel like, so whatever that means. I think Kotelnicki's offense, West Virginia will benefit from having seen that at Kansas in the last few years.
Yeah.
And it'll be interesting to see, like I think we were saying just right before the show, how much is that going to be his offense, or is James Franklin going to have his sticky little fingers all over like he did 100 years ago? And suddenly, all of a sudden, it starts to be a lot more drop back passing. If it's still all that little kind of tricky little Kansas stuff where they're moving, tons of motion, tons of reverses and all kinds of other stuff like that, then I think it'll still be the offense that West Virginia is used to seeing. But if we'll see on the offensive end. But I like West Virginia's chances for sure. But it's going to come down to special teams and big players. Who's going to keep it up on defense to prevent the big play?
Yeah, man, golly, y'all are getting me even more psyched up to watch this one on Saturday. I wish it wasn't at 11 a.m. Oh my gosh! But no, man, I want to trust the climb so bad. I'm with you, Kit. I don't know if I can take them outright, but I think they can certainly cover the 8. This is going to be I think it's going to be just a very ticky-tacky, just very chippy football game. But you keep Garrett upright. You don't let West Virginia throw the ball around on you. Penn State throw the ball around on you. You can go out there and get this done. And that, what a moment for you guys. I know y'all have a real tough Big 12 schedule coming up. So I think there's something to be said for that too. Go out there week 1, get this one under your belt before you have to go into a pretty tough couple of weeks in the Big 12.
That includes we still got to play Pitt.
Yeah.
Regardless of how good they are.
We were talking about the conference as a whole just the other day. I'm like, dude, you guys really got dealt a tough hand this year with your schedule. So,
but you know what? Last year we felt the same way. We looked on the schedule. We had you guys coming off what you came off of. We had Pitt, who was coming off an 8-win season. Texas Tech was being picked to win the conference. You know, preseason schedules, I learned last year because everybody's saying we played like they listened to quarterbacks we beat last year on the Cannell show. It's a nobody's nobody of quarterbacks that we beat last year. Like it really inspired very little confidence in me for a few minutes. So it just taught me like, man, you know, these preseason schedules look tough. And in this case, I'm pretty sure it's going to be, but you just never know what's actually going to play out. Texas Tech was bad last year. You guys weren't completely bad.
Just let it out.
It was a shocker, but you know the hangover. You know it happened.
Chandler Morris
Colorado
experience
blindsided you in week 1, yeah. And so I just we got to pray for Arizona to fall back a couple steps. I think that's one of the big games in our schedule that we have to pray for. We get a lot of the good teams at home, Kansas State, Oklahoma State, so that's going to help some. But I think if we win this game, we have to be a favorite the rest of the way. Right? I mean, you can't say
without a doubt. Yeah.
You know, we're coming off a 9-win season. We lost on a Hail Mary to Houston in the final seconds. That's 10 wins. We lost to Oklahoma State in the fourth quarter when we were up 7 because Ollie Gordon scored 3 late touchdowns, which sucked. But we were really close to being an 11-win football team last year, and we returned a lot of people. So we're really optimistic, and hopefully Penn State doesn't just run us out of there. You know, I don't think they will. But this is the most excitement we've had probably since the Geno Smith years, man. It's sad really because we're so used to being good often, and it just hasn't been that way, you know, in the Big 12.
I don't know, man. Will Greer was a guy, man.
Yeah, Will Greer.
He was. I'm just saying we felt like we had a little bit of a cap on those teams because of the way Dana coached. 80, 90 plays a game. We knew our defenses were never going to have a chance. One other number I'll give you. They're projecting that this is going to be it plays in the 50s. So we're talking maybe 5 or 6 possessions per team in this game, you know? So like you said about the under, you were dead on. There's not going to be a lot of possessions in this game. Both teams are ball control. West Virginia led the conference in time of possession last year. Was one of the big ingredients in all the games we won. We led in time of possession. I think we're going to probably want to do it again, you know?
Here's what it comes down to for me. Here's what it comes down to, this game for me. Last year against Penn State, night game in Happy Valley, that game was way closer than the final score would indicate.
Oh, yeah.
It was in that thing to the very end, and now here you go. You got them in Morgantown. Moonshine's going to be flowing, keeping folks warm, and it's all ears to me, baby. This is when the Mountaineers get back at them, all right? This is when it's going to happen.
And you know what else is crazy? So Garnett Hollis and Eddie Bisterin from West Virginia have both been in the media talking about Penn State. Eddie Bisterin said out loud yesterday in his press conference that he's pissed that James Franklin scored with 6 seconds to go. He said they've been playing it on the monitors all offseason. When they asked Neil Brown about it, he completely downplayed it. But then Garnett Hollis, Northwestern transfer, said, listen, in the Big Ten, they don't care about anybody but Ohio State and Michigan every year. They don't give respect to anybody else. Like there's a lot of bulletin board material for Penn State, and that includes the Pat McAfee stuff. Garrett Green's going to run wild, boys. You know, just everything he says. It's insane, man. It really is.
But Neil Brown's the same guy, man. When he was at Troy, walked in Death Valley at night, beat LSU on homecoming.
I love it.
You know, like that's, I mean.
And Nebraska.
Paul's going to turn me into a believer, man.
I know. I'm sitting here
around every single one of my opinions.
I'm looking at my pick sheet from earlier in the week, and now I want to go back and start going through my West Virginia games again. But I was going to ask you. I mean, you think with Neil, he's got another 9-win season in him? Is this repeatable? I'm guessing you think so.
Oh yeah, just because of what we have back. You know, we've got 3 offensive linemen feel like are going to be drafted, and then we have. The other 2 guys, you know, one is a 5th-year senior that's played behind incredible talent his entire career, and he won that job again. He beat a freshman All-American for the job that transferred in. So we feel good about it. If the offensive line can at least be what it was last year, absolutely it's repeatable. Because if we're able to run the ball like we were last year, all of our receivers are back, and they were all freshmen last year. We started 3 freshmen at receiver last year. The guys that started against Penn State weren't even on the team by week 4. They were even off the team. So we had to play 3 freshmen the rest of the way. It took a while to grow. The team that go watch the North Carolina game, that's the team that'll be playing Saturday. We blew their doors off, So we're good. We feel confident. And that's what we've gotten from the coaches, really. I mean, they have never lied to us in all the 5 years he's been there. They know they have a good football team. Now, to the level of Penn State, a high-end playoff team, it's iffy. But I still think there's a world, and when we lose this game, and we're still in the Big 12 race, even if we do lose it.
Love it, love it. Boys, I have kept y'all long enough. Tell the people where they can find you, where they can follow you, where they can watch you. Take it away.
Go ahead, Paul.
Locked On West Virginia. Just starting that gig. Really proud to be there. Has been Mountaineer Paul Talks football up until now. I have another channel that's Hoops from the Hills. I'll be converting that to probably my website, West Virginia Insiders. So both those places at Paul Mountaineer on X if you want to find me there as well.
Awesome, man. I actually already followed you today, so I'm excited.
Okay, cool,
I'm excited for your content over on Locked On West Virginia, man. That's gonna be fun.
I appreciate that a lot.
Yeah, so I'm over at Uninformed Frog.
I'll give you guys a follow.
Thank you, sir. We're at the Uninformed Podcast, Apple and Spotify, as well as the Lupton Drinking Club. That'll be at Post Game Beers for your Spotify and Apple college baseball news.
Yes, sir. Nothing more to add to that. God bless you. No problem.
Thank you, guys.
It's been a fun show, y'all. Thanks so much for hanging out with us. We'll have a lot more of this coming at you this season. More great guests and more college football talk. Until we meet again on Tuesday, God bless America. I hope your team wins. I love you. And go Big 12. We'll see you around.